What's up, G. Scott? Thanks for having me on campus at Ohio State.
Hello, it's great being here. Thanks for coming out. Glad to have you.
I'm excited. G, I want to ask you the question that I ask all the guests. What are you super into right now? What are you all about?
Yeah. Well, I would say one of the things, just because it's out of my control, it's what I do every single day. I'm obviously big on football right now. Being in the thick of the season, it's hard to find much to do outside of that. It's taking up a lot of my time. But the number one thing in my life and the biggest thing in my life is my faith. That is truly what I'm big on. And so anytime that I get away outside of here, it's usually somewhat revolves around intimacy with Christ and trying to get to know him more and how I can serve him better and, be a better disciple, honestly.
It's a pretty amazing answer.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. And recently you just went to a concert. Can you explain what that was?
Yeah, so it was a Josiah Queen concert in Antoine Bradford. They invited us to come and listen to them do a performance. They messaged me and Emeka, and they were like, hey, we'd love to have you guys, come backstage and check us out. I guess they're fans of us too, of our play. And I'm like, oh, that's super cool because I'm a big fan of you guys. So it just kind of worked like that. We were able to come and hang out with them. We took pictures. They did an amazing job. Spontaneously, they actually asked us to come out and share a word with everybody.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It doesn't just happen when you're backstage and the performers are like, hey, why don't you just come out and speak?
Yeah, and there was a couple thousand people there too. It wasn't just 20 people. So it was super cool. I was super grateful just to be there, and it was dope.
That's pretty awesome. I did hear a rumor that you might have a hidden talent. People might trust you cutting their hair. Is that true?
Yes, that is true. That's true.
That's a huge honor.
Yes, that is true. I've kind of, in the last, I'd say, couple years of my life, I've tapered away from it more. But there was a time on this team where I was cutting hair every day, all the time.
No way.
Many of my teammates. Yes.
Whose hair did you like cutting the most?
Any of just my friends. Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah.
Him and I are the same class. I've cut CJ's hair. I've cut Justin Fields' hair. I mean,
you could start a business just off of those three names.
Yeah, no, the list would go on. But I mean, they were all just we're all buddies, and they were like, hey man, why would I go spend all this money with this barber? And one of my friends is good at cutting hair, and it's convenient, and so it was a good time for us just to hang out. But over the time, I've kind of gotten away from it a little bit, just because sometimes it can be a lot. It can be a lot, especially with all that we have going on and responsibilities that I have outside of that. It's kind of time consuming, but here and there, I'll still, my friend needs a haircut, and he's like, man, I have this going on, and I can't get an appointment. I'll cut their hair just still.
That's good. Well, hopefully I didn't just give you a list of people that are going to line up
I know, right?
to get their hair cut. Well, that's good. Well, gee, you're from Seattle. I'm from Seattle. But how did you go from Seattle to Columbus, Ohio? Why OSU?
Yeah. Dude, I couldn't even tell you exactly, why. I think when you're a recruit, you have 5 official visits. I only took 1, and it was to the Ohio State University, my first one, and I decided on Christmas Day of my junior year that I just want to commit. On that trip, I was like, I want to come here. And you could say it was something that was maybe above me, but it was just, I wanted to be here. I'm not even exactly sure why, but I was like, I want to play here. And so I made that decision, and 5 years later, here I am.
That's wild. Just that one visit.
Yeah.
Was there a specific spot on campus or person you met or, moment that you remember?
I think it was just the environment that I was in, just the college atmosphere that there was. I think it was just when I was there on that game day, I just remember just looking up and just seeing the, 100,000+ people there. It was just such an amazing environment. And I'm like, I wanted to be associated with this. And so, I remember telling one of my coaches there, I was like, I want to come here. And he's like, all right, great. I want you to go home, take a couple of days and see how you really feel about it. And then we'll go from there. And I went home and I was like, man, yeah, I want to go play there. And so the rest is history.
That's pretty amazing because some coaches probably would have been like, yep, great. Let's go. But he gave you time to think about it, sit in it. And he probably knew, he's like, I know this kid's going to call me in 20 minutes.
Right. Yep. Coach Tony Alford. I'll never forget it. Great coach.
I love that. Looking back on your time, and I know you're still here, but reflecting on your time as a Buckeye, maybe specifically football, is there a favorite memory that sticks out to you?
I got a favorite memory. There's so many great memories. I would say it wouldn't be just one specific moment, but it would just be the camaraderie of friends just over time. The amount of different people from different cultural backgrounds that all are coming here And when you've been here, this is my 5th season, so I've been able to be around so many different players and people, and just see how everybody kind of works together. I would say all the friends and great people that I've been around since I've been here. That's one thing that's going to be one big thing I'll remember about this place is just how many people I was able to meet.
As a senior, your perspective is probably even different now as a 5th year, right? Just having that extra year. I don't know if people are calling you grandpa, but I know that was my experience with college across our 5th years. We would call the grandmas, we call them the super seniors. But just looking from even that senior year to 5th year, how has your perspective coming into this building every day changed? Yeah,
I would just say, I mean, again, like even to that question, I feel like there would be many things, but I think the longer that you do things, the longer that you're around this building or the longer you're around anything, I would say it starts to put in perspective more of all of the coaching points that people would make over time. When you're young, you hear these things and it's like, whatever. Like it's almost like you in your own way of being naive, you think that you're above authority in a way. But the older you get, the more you start realizing, like, wait, all the things that they're saying is actually pretty true. And if you do follow these things, it'll help you be successful. And so just learning how to actually follow directions and listen and not be a know-it-all. I think that's one thing that if I could have gone back 5 years ago, I would have told my younger self to maybe do better at just to listen to what other people have to say. And, to not be so full of yourself, but to, maybe listen and give people an opportunity to help you. Yeah, that's good, because I think especially coming out of high school, highly recruited, right? You're really good. You probably were running the show as a senior in high school. And you come in and you're like, okay, now I have to take that step back and really listen to this coaching. And that can be hard. That can be really hard. But I know for me, at least after my freshman year of college, it was in the last final game of our season, the national championship game, when I realized, that's why we did that drill in the summer. That's why we had the conditioning test that we did. That's why our coach made us redo this one play over and over and over. And it's like, I think that at least showed me like, okay, like I might not know all the things, but like I have to trust that even when it's hard, my coach has the better plan for what's going on. Exactly. Yeah. I kind of came to that revelation too, is just like, it's kind of, there's not one thing that you do that makes you great at what you do. It's the accumulation of all the small things you continuously do that help you have a fighting chance to be great at what you do. And so sometimes you can be in the middle of doing a task that's like, man, why am I doing this? This is kind of annoying. This is tedious. I'm not a fan of it. But not being discouraged, because it's not just this one thing that's going to make me great. It's doing this and it's doing this. And it's just when you do things right enough, it doesn't promise you anything, but it gives you a fighting chance. And you're doing things right a lot of times. You and the Ohio State football team. You guys have a huge following, even outside of this state. As for Ohio State football fans who are the biggest Buckeye fans, they don't get to come into the locker room, right? They can only see so much. So for someone who is even the biggest Buckeye fan, what's something that they don't always see about this team? I would just say, like, how much these guys are literally just humans. Like, that's probably one of the biggest things. I think you can get like this false idea of what we're like just through a screen, or just through, because they only get to really see us for the most part, like on 3.5 hours on Saturdays from noon to 3 or whatever it is, or maybe some clips that you saw online. But when you go in that locker room, you see like just genuine, just human beings, just like regular people, like the kind of mistakes that people make, the same way people slip and fall, just like these are just literally human people. The emotions, and people have tears and they get frustrated, and it's just people. And so that's one thing I would say that maybe that they don't get that full understanding when you're only able to see us on the outside, but with your inside, you're able to see like just genuine people. Yeah, I love that. And that's why I love doing this, because some people probably have never seen you with your helmet off, right? And it's like, this is G. Scott, like, come on, right? So I that's why I love doing stuff like this, because really you can get to know who the athlete is under the helmet. And two, your classmates. Like, who's the guy that you were talking about, maybe dropped a pass or whatever. Like, oh yeah, that kid is a human. Like, he has a heart, right? So I love that. But I want to know a little bit more about your team as humans. Everybody sees you guys run in the tunnel. Everybody sees you guys on the field. But inside the locker room, right before the game, what is the Ohio State locker room like? What's going on? Yeah, sometimes it gets kind of crazy. It's like Coach Day, before the Penn State game, he was talking to, like, obviously we're all in our own kind of mode, but just as an outside looking in and watching us, I remember he spoke about just our attitude before going to that Penn State game. Like it looked like guys were. This was his quote. He's like, it looked like guys were literally getting ready to go into like actual war. There was guys like everywhere, like either in their own place going like, or like maybe pumping themselves up. There was a bunch of guys like reading their Bibles. It's
in
like
the locker room.
Oh yeah,
like Bible out in the locker room.
Yes, yeah, like. It is like these guys don't know if this is their last day living. Like
that's a crazy way to put it.
Yeah, and so which obviously I didn't really get that whole perspective, but I can see from his perspective just walking around, seeing like all these guys.
You're like, this is normal. Yeah. You're like, this is how we usually get ready for game days.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And so I think it's intense, and I think we take every moment like it's the Super Bowl. We approach every week like that, and so. We go out there, we're intense, but we try to play as free as we can because we trust our training. We know that we've put in a great amount of work to be able to go out and play free and have fun.
Yeah. Wow. Well, if I'm another team that's gonna play you guys, and I'm hearing, man, guys got Bibles out in the locker room before, they're like physically pumping themselves up. Yep. That I'm intimidated.
No, it's intense.
Yeah. And what are you doing in that locker room?
I am usually more calm. Yeah, I'm usually reading my Bible.
Okay.
Yeah, I read my Bible before every game, and I just try to feel my motivation in Him. Like I always read in 1 Samuel 17 just about David and Goliath, and I read the same story before every game, and it's just how when David was going to go take on Goliath, Saul was going to give him his armor and his gear, and he put his armor and his gear on before he went to go fight Goliath, and he just was going to take steps in, and he was like, this doesn't feel right because I don't train in this. This isn't me. And so he took it off and he went to go grab 5 smooth stones, and he realized like, this is all I need. I only need what I've practiced with. I only need, my living God. I don't need the flashiness. I don't need sword and spear. This is all I need. And so for myself, I take that same exact approach. Like, I don't need to be flashy. I don't need like super, super rah to like out motivate everybody else. Like, I just believe if I have God with me, that is my strength. And so I try to shy away from, I'm usually not the one that's doing this whole bunch of pumping up because I just know the strength that God gives me is enough.
I love that you brought that up because I read the story of David and Goliath in a devotional once before a lacrosse game, and it like completely changed the trajectory of like how I went into games. And I read the passage where just David's like, okay, the battle belongs to the Lord. Like, the battle is already won.
Yes.
And for me, I read that, and I think I was confused at first. I was like, wait, I haven't played the game. Like, I haven't even gone into the game. But then I was like, wait, God has already conquered this situation. He already knows the outcome. Like, I can go in free. And so I love that you brought that up because you're talking about a different part. But really, like, it's true.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's freeing to know. I write on my eye black before every game, Romans 8:28, and that we know all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. And I just have trust that even if from a worldly perspective or on the outside looking in, it doesn't look like things go good, or maybe we lost a game, or maybe I had a bad game. You can, ridicule me or be mad at me on the outside, but I have the faith that all of these things that I'm going through are working together to refine me and make me a better version of myself. And so having faith through that gives me freeing peace while I play, that I'm not here to perform for man or for, fans or analytics or whatever it's for. I'm just here to serve Christ.
That doesn't take away, though. You probably, if you drop a pass, you have a bad game, or you lose, you sit in that a little bit. Like, it still hurts. And so, I just think there's so much to it, but you're able to get out of that rut, right? You're able to get out of that and find peace after a bad game. 100%.
Don't get me wrong. Following God and being faithful to Him, there's emotion. And I think that's why, but even in the midst of bad emotions or good emotions, I can still find joy, though, and I can rejoice in it. So I like to say that I always have joy, but that doesn't mean I'm always happy or I have happy emotions or I don't get upset. I can get upset about things, but I have this deep down joy in my spirit, and I have understanding that even though I'm upset at this or even though I don't like this, I do rejoice in it because I know, like I was just saying, that it's ultimately working for my good.
Yeah, and I want to go deeper on this because something spiritually special is going on at Ohio State. You guys are taking care of business on the football field, but can you just describe from your perspective what this year has been like on a spiritual sense on campus?
Yeah, I would just say there's been a mass herd of people who are making the public declaration to yield their life to Christ. which I commend so much, because especially at this age and in 2024, the world that we live in right now, there's so many things that you could elude or surrender your life to. There's so many things you can give your life to. There's distractions, there's social media, there's comparison. There's so many things that you could chase, but to see that people are yielding their life to Christ is an amazing thing to see. And I think ultimately it can come from, there's no, like I was kind of speaking before the interview, that there's no true fulfillment that's found outside of Christ. Like I said, there can be happy moments. You can do things that are fulfilling to the flesh and that are fun in the moment. But I think ultimately it doesn't lead to a place of true and sincere fulfillment. And I think that when people are starting to turn to Christ and they're starting to find like, I'm finally finding my true essence of who I am in Him. I think people are clinging to that and they're like, wow, this is very special. And so I just love to see and love to be a part of what's going on campus. And I'm just so humbled just to be here.
Yeah, it's cool that you say that, because you're at like the top of college football, right? Like you guys are like, I'm like looking at this building, I'm like, this is sick. I'm like, how can I get recruited here? And I don't play football. There's a lot of reasons why I couldn't get recruited here.
Right.
But you're like at the top and you're saying that, you're like, man, I've seen some awesome things. I'm a part of it still. And like, that's not what's filling me and sustaining me. Yeah.
I'm telling you. And I literally just had this conversation with one of my, I'm not going to say his name, but like one of my teammates yesterday. Or no, this wasn't yesterday. This was Saturday after our game. And we were just talking about, regardless of what you can achieve, there will always be more. I don't know why, when he said that to me, it just hit me so much, because that's just so true. I remember being in middle school and all I wanted to do was play varsity football. And when I got to varsity football, it's like all I wanted to do was play college football. When I got to college football, it's like all I want to do is be a starter at Ohio State. And now that I'm a starter at Ohio State, now all I want to do is just be the best starter at Ohio State. And then I want to be the best NFL. And the thing is, like, the race never ends. And there's always, as soon as you achieve that thing, whether it's that, even if it's not football terms, whether it's in your life, as soon as you get this interview, or there's another interview that I want, and I want to do this, which is, I think that a part of that's called ambition. It's good to have ambition, but it's hard to find your fulfillment in that, because you'll never be fulfilled if you're always chasing something else. But I think once I've turned to Christ, I think He's given me a fulfillment. Like, even though I do press on and I continue to try to achieve, things of this world, I do know that my fulfillment isn't found in it, though. It's found in Christ.
Juice got speaking into me. I feel good. I'm going to have a good day. This is great. There was a night, and I don't know exactly what you guys were calling it. Maybe it was like a revival night, but there were 1,000 students came out. People were getting baptized. You were speaking. Can you just describe what that was?
Yeah. That started like months before it happened, and there was so much prayer that went into that. We were like, man, we want to right before the season have a night where we all gather and praise the Lord together. And we actually intentionally did it on move-in day. So we were just hoping that freshmen that are coming in town with parents.
That's a chaotic day.
Yeah, like it's like campus is running wild that day. Everyone's moving in, parents are here, and there was people, a ton of people who came to the event in the first place. But I think there was a lot more people that even just were walking by that stopped and was like, wait, is that Travion Henderson? Is that G. Scott? Is that JT? Is that Emeka? Like up on a stage speaking. And I think a lot of people stopped, and it was just such a powerful moment. And, there were so many testimonials that came out of that event. And it's just, I rejoice so much, because just to think of that one person that wasn't even intending to go, they stopped and they saw what's going on and they heard a message and they maybe encountered the Holy Spirit and they made a decision on that day to get baptized. And from there, they're pursuing a journey that they wouldn't have maybe pursued. And that wasn't even an actual testimony. I don't know if that was an actual testimony that took place, but the thought of that, even if that were the case for one of those people, I just know all of heaven will rejoice for that one person.
I bet you there were some parents that were moving their kids in too. Yeah. They just like, you guys keep, decorating the wall. One of the dads, I know, like for me, my mom and I would spend hours in the dorm room setting it all up, and I could see my dad being the one to trickle out there. Yeah. But was there a specific maybe testimony or just moment from that night that you're like, man, I will never forget that?
One thing that really stuck out to me, it wasn't one person's testimony, but it was just the environment in itself of just thousands of people all on one accord, just worshiping, no strings attached, literally just our surrendered hearts to the Lord and saying like, Lord, we just accept you. It was just a true worship. And I remember just feeling like in the moment, I'm like, wow, like this is what heaven is going to be like. And I remember thinking like, this is what heaven's going to be like, but I won't have this human element to my legs are tired, or I'm hungry, or I have to use the bathroom, or feeling emotions of maybe like anything else. It would just be, there would be none of those feelings, but it would just be all fulfillment of God's glory. And I remember feeling that like, man, this is so amazing, just to see all these people here. We all share this thing in common. We are all created in His image, and to worship in that together is amazing. Because it's hard to find that. I think just in our world, like everyone has so many differences, and you know, whether it's political, whether it's whatever the case may be, it's just like it's such a constant feud. I think sometimes even between ourselves. But in that moment, it was like all of that went down, and it was just we all saw eye to eye for a moment, and it was just beautiful.
Yeah, zero distractions.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And I bet, just like you said, it's so cool to see all the people that came out and to hear different testimonies and just to feel that, like you said, what heaven might be like.
Yeah.
But I bet it's also just unbelievably special for you to have that experience with your teammates, like guys who you're going to war with, right? In the locker room before you're walking out there. Can you just maybe elaborate on like what that bond has been like? Because it's different. When you have a faith-based bond, it's different. Because Absolutely. Man, that just, I don't know how to explain it. That was my only way to explain it. But could you just explain like what that has meant to you to be able to do that with your teammates?
Yeah, I remember actually seeing like a whole bunch of them. They were all sitting together too. When they're like, not even the guys that were up on stage, but like my teammates that weren't a part of the event, they just came to see it. And there was a huge group of them together, and it was amazing to see them come out. I think when it comes to my teammates, just even me personally, I think they were able to see the evidence of Christ's faithfulness in my life, because they knew me in a time before I knew Christ and before I was certain, because I didn't grow up in the church. This wasn't a life that I lived my entire life. And for them to see the transformation that God has took me through, they have no choice to say that something is going on here, because this is not the G I remember. And so sometimes it can cause them to, not even just me, maybe even some of my other teammates as well. It causes other people to be curious, like what's going on here and what happened. And so just to be able to, because I believe like I say this all the time, like the greatest sermon you can ever preach is the life that you live. And I think for people to be able to see that, whether it's from me or any of my teammates, and to give that encouragement to my other teammates to pursue Christ as well, is just such an honor to be able to do.
When you see your teammates change, like for the better, it is the coolest thing ever.
Yes, there's one of my teammates in mind that is just like, I've literally seen night and day his entire life, like literally change. And it's amazing just to witness. There's
moments during games and even like practices and in the weight room when you go through hard things with your teammates and you're like, man, we're bonded for life because we did 23 chin-ups together, but like really, like when you get to see that, that's true bonding. That's just incredible.
Yeah. When you go through struggles and hardship with people, it makes you closer. It's like a sibling relationship. I feel like any relationship where you're able to have, even if it's conflict between you guys at times, I think that can often make you closer. I think a less authentic friendship is one that you guys never will call out the indifferences, or you'll never maybe hold the other person accountable, and it's kind of just really surface level. But when you're able to have brothers where we're holding each other accountable and we're able to have that intimacy with each other, I think it ultimately makes us closer.
It's funny because those are moments when I realized when I was actually really close with my friends. Like when we would start to get on each other. When we'd like pack for away trips, and one of my roommates, or I would say it to my other roommate, be like, have you packed yet? Like, dude, you got to pack. We're about to leave at 5 a.m. in the morning. Then I was like, okay, now we're close. So we're able to be real with each other in that sense.
Yes.
There were times when if I didn't listen to worship music in the morning, or if I didn't read a Devo, I kind of just feel a little off, right? And not that you have to do the beginning of the day, just for me, I needed to do that in the beginning of the day. And I, just from hearing and learning more about Reflection Sunday, I'm like, man, I wish I would have done that when I was playing.
No, I like to definitely start my days like that as well. I think it's definitely important that everything that I do throughout my day is just an overflow of the time that I spent with Christ in the secret place. And I think that's just, I'm similar in that way. I like to start my days that way as well.
That was really cool what you just said. Can you say that again? How is everything I do in my day is just an overflow of how I spend, what was that?
So everything that takes place or occurs in my day is just an overflow of the time that I spent in the secret place with Christ.
That's good, because you play in front of hundreds, thousands of people. Okay, you have a lot of eyes on you, even not in person, like just on social media, right? Like you have a following, and what comes out of you in those public places is going to be what you've practiced and you've repped out when you're alone with the Lord.
Yep. And instead of doing the opposite, sometimes we can just go and live our lives and do all of our stuff, and at the end of the night, we'll have like a reflection time where we're like, God, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I like to set my intentions and set my heart on the Lord before I, go into my day. Just because, instead of reflecting on the back end, being proactive and being like, Lord, how can you please just use me today in the way that you want me to be used.
Gee, there's probably a kid, actually probably multiple kids who want to wear number 88 at Ohio State, have your locker, do what you're doing here today, even on this day. What's something you would tell them, hey, from someone who's sitting in your locker right now, a dream that they have, what's one piece of advice you would give them?
I think you could guess where this is going to go, but no matter the extent that you go in this game, no matter how many people praise your name, no matter how many people, like I said, cheer you on, whether it's 100,000 people that cheer you on or if it's 0 people cheer you on, either way, I think it's been a common theme that I've said throughout this whole thing. There's no greater fulfillment that you will receive that outweighs knowing Christ. And although, playing at this university is absolutely amazing, and I would encourage that young person to keep pursuing it, because it's not biblical to stop doing the things and stop pursuing the things that you should in life. But I would encourage that young person to do not let this consume you and allow it to be your entire identity, because you were made for more. You weren't born for football. You were ultimately born in the image of God, and you were made to ultimately serve. And so finding your foundation first, and then as a result of your foundation, then going out and playing this beautiful game that we've been gifted with, and play at your best and serve others. And then so from that, I would then say serve others, listen to coaches and listen to it. Do not be, like I was saying earlier, arrogant or be a know-it-all, but be coachable. Be loving and kind, and kick butt on the football field.
That's good. Well, you got to be careful. These churches are going to start picking you up, and you're gonna, next thing you know, you're going to be a pastor and not a football player very soon. It's very good.
Yeah. Well, I'd be okay with that as well.
You got some good wisdom, and just everything that you're doing here, and your teammates, and the light that you're shining. I live in Boston. It is very evident to me in Boston, and I'm sure I'm not the only person. So just continue what you're doing. It is incredible to see how you guys are just pointing to the Lord. And it's inspiring, and it made me kind of want to be like, I want to go here.
Right.
So you don't have to be a Buckeye fan to be a fan of G. Scott. This was amazing, and we're cheering you on.
Yeah.
Go Buckeyes.
Yeah. I'm super humbled to be able to, do this, and it's amazing to be able to continue to shine his light. Whether it's on the football field and I score and I'm doing a celebration, or I'm ministering to people at a concert, or I'm just sitting here one-on-one in a conversation, through any medium that I'm able to give him glory, it's beautiful to do.
Well, thank you. This was awesome.
Yes, thank you.